Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I'm filming in a slightly different location today. This is my lounge and I'm just going to try it out and see how I get on with filming in here. So today's video is a requested video. Somebody asked me to do this a while ago and I'm only just getting around to doing it now. So I'm really sorry about that. But this is going to be a video about moving to Australia and what to expect. So they asked me a number of questions and I'm going to attempt to answer them and maybe throw in a few things of my own as well. The first thing that they wanted to know was if there was anything that we wished that we did before we moved and anything that we wish that we had brought with us. So I had a discussion with Stephen about these questions, and the one thing that we thought that we wish we did before moving was moving into a hotel or Airbnb further in advance of coming to Australia, because we were selling our house and what happened was I think all of our belongings got collected for the international removals on the Friday, and then we only had the Saturday for everything else that wasn't getting taken in the removals to get out of the house, to get the house cleaned, to get painting done, to repair things that had got damaged during the removals, and then we had to come here on Sunday morning. So that was really crushed for time and we just felt like it was a bit of a panic. So it kind of would have been better, we felt, if we had moved into a hotel or Airbnb maybe about a week in advance, get the international removal out of the way, and then have a bit more time to finish off things with the house before we actually came here. And I did write a blog post about this. There should be a link to my blog in the description bar down below. I posted an article about some things that I learned through the process of moving to Australia. So if you're interested in that, go and check out my blog post. There's hardly anything on there, but there might be something interesting for you. The other thing, anything that we wish we brought with us, not particularly. We brought a couple of suitcases each when we first came over, and then the rest of our stuff got shipped. So everything eventually arrived. There was a couple of things got lost in the removals and we're not entirely sure where those went. But, you know, we brought pretty much everything eventually, so there wasn't anything that we wished that we had that we didn't have. Next question is how we feel without our family. And I think Stephen has certainly adjusted to that a lot easier than I have. I tend to talk to my family every week on FaceTime, and it can be quite difficult being away from them, particularly at times like Christmas. Now, I'm somebody that absolutely loves Christmas, and I really enjoy the process of things like buying Christmas presents. And some of my family just said, we don't want you to buy us Christmas presents while you're living in Australia. And even things like that I find very difficult, because I want to buy presents for people, I want to give them presents, and it's just something that I really enjoy, and it kind of contributed to it not feeling like Christmas for me. So yeah, that was a really difficult time of the year, I suppose, and it's just not great being away from people. I think it definitely helps that I have Stephen here. I'm not entirely on my own, but it's not quite the same. And I also find when it's things like friends' birthdays, then, you know, I see them getting together and doing things, and I think, oh, I would really like to be there with them. And also because of the time difference, at the moment there's 9 hours time difference between here and the UK. And then when the clocks all start changing and everything, it will become 11 hours time difference. Then it means that you can't just pick up the phone at any time of the day and call your family, because obviously it's not the same time there as what it is here. You have to consider, are they working? Am I working? When are we free? And so everything sort of gets arranged in advance. and that's something that you're going to have to consider. Lifestyle. Does lifestyle change? Have we had to adapt to lifestyle in any way? I would say for us, our lifestyle hasn't particularly changed. And this is a question that we get asked a lot. Has your lifestyle changed since you moved to Australia? I feel like your lifestyle is only really going to change if there's something about your current environment that's preventing you from living the lifestyle that you want to live. Obviously, the weather is better here. It's sunny the majority of the time. It doesn't rain a huge amount. So if we wanted to go and spend a huge amount of time outdoors, that would be easier for us outside of obviously times when you have to be indoors, like when you're at work. But things still need to be done. There's still going to be chores that need done around the house. You're still going to have a certain amount of time that you want to dedicate to specific things. And so we just haven't felt like we've suddenly become these outdoorsy people that are just constantly going to events all the time. There is a lot on in Melbourne. Pretty much every weekend you will find that there's some kind of event happening. So if you're somebody that really wants to go to a lot of events, then this is a place where you can do that kind of thing. We have been to places like the National Gallery of Victoria. We've been there a couple of times. We're planning on going there soon because there's another couple of exhibitions coming up that we want to go and see. We've been for more walks, I suppose, around the parks and alongside the beach. Although, having been here for almost a year now, I haven't sat on a beach yet. I've stood on a beach, I've walked alongside a beach, but I haven't sat on a beach yet since arriving in Australia, which is quite surprising. So yeah, our lifestyle hasn't particularly changed. In terms of work, is work different over here? I guess it's going to depend on the kind of work that you are going into. So things like policies and procedures can be different. You will need to learn to work with different paperwork than what you're used to working in healthcare. There's different kinds of treatments over here than what I was used to in the UK. When you're applying for a job, then a cover letter is very important over here, and they also use a different structure for things like CVs. On top of that, salaries are not normally advertised in the job description. So when you're applying for a job, you don't normally know what you're going to get paid for it until you're partway into the interview process. So that's quite different from in the UK, where usually you will know what you're going to get paid before you apply for the job, or you will at least have an idea of the range. But over here, then you're applying for a job and you have no idea what it's going to pay you. On the plus side, wages here are usually quite a bit higher than in the UK. I think Stephen and I both got somewhere in the region of a 50% pay rise when we came over here and got our jobs. But then it took Stephen somewhere around about 5 months to actually get a job, because although IT is a very in-demand profession in Australia, his specific area of IT was not so much in demand, and that wasn't something that he had realised before coming here. Plus, we moved towards the end of the year and things really wind down towards Christmas time, and then they don't really start up again till towards the end of January after Australia Day. So that's something that you need to be aware of when you are moving here. Another question that I got asked is, do I feel judged as an immigrant? And I have to say, not particularly. I started working after I moved here, and I found that a surprising number of people at my workplace were not Australian. A lot of them were from the UK, and a lot of them were from the Philippines. And a lot of places that you go, then you will see people from all around the world. So it's not particularly unusual to be an immigrant here. I think there's always the potential for being judged as an immigrant, but it's just not something that I have particularly experienced. I thought I would just add in a few extra things that I have found out. Housing here is incredibly expensive. I think that's true for a lot of areas of Australia. It's not just specific to Melbourne, and Sydney, I believe, is even worse than Melbourne. So if you're living in an inner city area, then you can expect to spend a significant portion of your income on your housing. This is true for both renting and for buying. If you stay closer to the city, then you'll be expecting to pay more. If you're willing to live further out, then housing will get more affordable, but you have to consider the lifestyle that you want to live. So Stephen and I stay fairly close to the city, and our rent is obviously higher for that, but we don't have a car, so we don't have that expense. We're able to get public transport anywhere that we need to go. We've rented a car once in the whole time that we have stayed here. We are fairly close to things like the beach and to parks. We can go to lots of restaurants, and there's tons of things to do around about us. So that's why we chose to stay in the area that we do stay in. We could stay further away, but then we feel like we would be giving up loads of things in order to stay somewhere that the rent would be cheaper. And so that's why we make that decision. Another thing about housing in Australia is, before moving here, I thought that because Melbourne is hot in the summer and cold in the winter, that they would have temperature regulation in buildings perfect. They don't. So the first place that we stayed when we moved here was an apartment in St Kilda. It was at the top of the building, and it was baking hot all summer long. It just constantly got hit by the sun, and the most common way of heating apartments over here seems to be with this thing called a split system. So that's basically an air conditioning unit that can blow out cold air to cool your apartment and hot air if you want to heat your apartment. And generally there will be one of those to try and heat your entire apartment or cool your entire apartment. And it works for the limited space that it's immediately in, but it doesn't work so well for the other rooms that it's not in. So what we would find is that when we were staying in our apartment in St Kilda that we had rented through Airbnb, then we would have to have the living area freezing cold, but the bedroom and the bathroom were still roasting hot, and we would have the air conditioning on for most of the day. And then when we were looking for somewhere to stay longer term, when we came to view this place, it was actually a 30 plus degree day, and I was a bit apprehensive about how hot it was going to be when we would come to view the place. We walked in and actually it felt really cool, and that's because in this building on this side it never gets direct sunlight. So during summer it's actually a really nice temperature all the time, and we pretty much never have to run our air conditioning. In winter, on the other hand, it's pretty cold, so we have to have the place pretty hot in our living area so that the heat can try and get to the rest of the rooms. There is ducted heating, which you can get in some places, but it seems to be a lot less common than the split system heating. Another thing is shopping, specifically food shopping or general grocery shopping. A lot of things are more expensive over here, specifically fruit, vegetables, some kinds of meat. Also, you just don't have the same availability of some things as what we seem to have in the UK. Bacon over here seems to be very strange. It all looks like it's already been cooked, unless you go to Coles and buy a very specific brand, which I think is called something along the lines of the British Sausage and Bacon Company bacon, which then looks like uncooked bacon. Toilet paper over here, generally the rolls seem very small, all the sheets on it seem very small, they run out very fast, so always buy double length toilet roll. It will just be like normal toilet roll that you would buy in the UK. Coleslaw over here tastes of vinegar. I haven't been able to find anything that tastes like creamy coleslaw that you would buy in the UK. And supermarket selections of gluten-free food are pretty small in comparison to what you can get in the likes of Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's. Plus, gluten-free bread just isn't as good. It's pretty dense. If it's not dense, it's pretty crumbly. I just really don't like it so much over here. Now, earlier I did mention travel, and specifically travel by public transport. So the way to get around Melbourne is using something called a Myki card. Now that, I suppose, is similar to the Oyster card that you would use on the London Underground. When I came out to visit Melbourne in 2011, you could buy these cardboard tram passes, which would last for a day or a week, and then they were just disposable. That's been replaced with an actual card. You have to go to a 7-Eleven and pay $6 for your card, and then you top it up with money. Now you can either top it up at a 7-Eleven or you can top it up online after registering your Myki card. And you can also set it up with a direct debit so that when your Myki reaches a certain level, then it will automatically top it up with more credit. And then when you go on the trams, trains and buses, you just swipe your Myki card, it registers that you have tapped on to whatever public transport you're going on to, and then that pays your fare to go to wherever it is that you're going to. And it's like flat fares for certain distances. And then if you're going on the trams, then it's just basically the same fare going everywhere. If you're traveling on the trains, you will tap on when you're going into a train station, tap off when you're going out the other end, and it will charge you according to whatever distance it was that you were traveling. So that's just something to know about public transport, so that you're not getting on a tram and then going, how do I pay for this? So I think that's probably everything that I should be covering just now in terms of what to expect when moving to Australia. There's probably lots of other things that people would want to know. If there is anything that you want to know, then please just leave me a comment in the comment section below. If there's lots of comments, then I will try and make another of these videos. If it's just a few things, then I'll just reply to the comments individually. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked, then please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you next time. Bye!